welcome back to The Reading Therapist. And today we're going to talk about how you can build reading skills using card decks. This is to work on fluency, but it's also in learning those concepts so that students can decode single, one-syllable words through multisyllabic words. They will have the tools they need to be able to decode. So they'll no longer have to rely on pictures, rely on guessing. They will have what they need. So let's talk about how using the decks is a cumulative tool. So it's adding a cumulative piece to your program. These are things that the students have learned. So if you're talking about that regular deck, whatever color you might choose to use, I use green. And these are concepts they've learned. These are regular, frequent ways to spell a particular sound. So, for example, CK in truck, the K. Okay, that's a regular way to spell K at the end of a word after a short vowel, CK. So after they've learned, we've gone through that whole lesson, the whole multisensory, all the steps all the way through, then we're going to add some of those words to our regular deck so that they can practice those in the future, mixed with, with the other concepts that they've learned. So it's that, coming back, that repetition, and helping them to just really own that particular skill. And so you've learned that CK comes after a short vowel. You've learned that K comes after, a vowel pair or a vowel R or a long vowel or a consonant. And so maybe at this point is when you might introduce a word like peak. It has EA. The kiddos have already learned that EE is a regular way to spell E, but the EA is a less frequent way. It's irregular. So you might add a word like peak to the irregular deck, and you'll talk about with them why this one is going in this deck, and it has to do with that EA for the E sound. So that's an example of how you could use the two different decks just to solidify the learning and to help them build their automaticity with those words. But you're not just introducing it and having them memorize. They're really walking through and analyzing and understanding why that particular word is there, and they've worked with those sounds before. So what we teach, and again with my program and with my academic language therapy, I use basic language skills, again, which is an Orton Gillingham based program, and what it teaches with a concept deck, for example, you have a letter. We work in a key word that has that particular sound in it, and then they end with the sound. So if it's K, the letter C making K, they would say C, cat, K. And this is the students that are reading these. Okay, if we've learned NG, then they'll say digraph NG, king, So it's solidifying the letters, what sound it makes, and then that key word that has that sound in it to help them remember an example. Another one might be vowel pair AY, play, A. Okay, and so that key word could be the little kids playing, and they can think of that word play, which has that A at the end spelled AY. So the purpose with the decks is interactive. Okay, the students are learning their expectations. Okay, I'm going to say the letter, keyword, and sound each time, and then it just becomes automatic, and they know how to read through those. So the students are engaged. It's not you doing a read aloud, just reading through, flashing the cards in front of them. They're in charge of reading them to you. And again, whether it's a word deck or a concept deck, you're just the guide, but the students know, okay, I have to step up, I'm involved, it's my time to practice. So the key to learning the individual sounds and graphemes, the key is to learn the individual sounds and graphemes, how to divide a word into syllables, then to be able to decode one or more syllabic words accurately and fluently. That's our goal. So you're teaching them all those parts that are in a word. So when they get to a multisyllabic word that they don't know, they have to really just break it down, look at it syllable by syllable, what's in that syllable, what have you learned, what's new, and they can work through to figure out what that word is. So, I admit myself as a teacher, I used to tell students, make a guess, look at the pictures, use the context clues. Those really, are ineffective reading tools that we want to give our students. Okay, we want to teach them, look at the word, okay, break it down. What do you know about that word? What do you see? Does it have a suffix? Does it have a prefix? Does it have a final stable syllable? What are some of the syllables? You want them to really work with that word and not give up on it. And then, you've learned how to divide syllables, and they can break down and figure out what that word is without using things like context clues and pictures. You want them to be able to decode the words. So we know students who are struggling with reading, maybe they have dyslexia, maybe they have a reading disorder. We know that you don't just want to have them memorizing words. We know that's not the best method. So you might be teaching one day a particular concept, and you may have them, listen to these words. Tell me what sound you hear. Race, rabbit, rest. What do you hear at the beginning? And then have them tell you through that discovery, what sound do you hear? And then they might make a guess. Like, how do you think that sound's going to be spelled? And they can give you some guesses. It's okay if it's wrong, but you're kind of guiding them through. And so again, this is through basic language skills through that Orton Gillingham based program that I use. But anyone could use this auditory discovery method for teaching a new concept. And so they're listening to that sound first, trying to identify what do we hear in common. They're thinking, do I know a letter that makes this sound? They're piecing that together, even if it's a little bit wrong. And then you'll show them, well, look at all these words. What do you see? And then, so like, okay, I see a R. Maybe they already guessed that. You say, you're right. There's an R in all of these words. So you've got them posted, listed, written on the board, typed up if you're doing it virtually. And so then you're going through and you're practicing some words that have that letter. Later down the road, it might be beyond just single letters, single sound. You might work into vowel pairs, or it may be a single sound but spelled with two letters, like the digraph sh. Shh. So then you're looking at words that have that sh. And then maybe it'll move to a page with some words, and they're practicing reading those words fluently. And then you may move to, well, let's practice spelling some words with those sounds, and really have them break down the word into the individual sounds. So, fish, sh. So start with that. Segmenting is important. And then, what letter says f, I, sh, sh. This could also be where those sound boxes that I've talked about in some of my other videos and that I've shown in the, what I teach. This might be a good place that you could bring those out and have them, fish, and they're pulling down a manipulative, sh. And then, well, that would be left to right, ish. And then what letter says f? And then they'll write f in the box. Okay, I, sh. sh. So that's a great tool for spelling. And so you're tying it together. You're starting with the discovery of that sound in the words to making that prediction, and then you're showing them so they're getting the visual. You're discussing it. Does this sound use our voice box or not? D is a sound that uses our voice, but p is not. It's unvoiced. And what's blocking our sound? Because consonants, we know that a consonant is a blocked or partially blocked sound by our tongue, teeth, or lips. So you want to talk about all that. You can get out mirrors and discuss that with the students. What's blocking that sound? Is it the back of the tongue, or your teeth on your tongue, like in v or th? You have two voiced and unvoiced sounds for th there. So you're doing a discovery piece to really get them to see how that sound is made with the mouth, what it looks like, and then they're practicing spelling words with that concept. Then words that follow that, that's what's going to go in the green or whatever color you choose in your regular deck. And so then they're practicing all the different concepts that they're learning in that deck. So that's an idea on how you can use a card deck. Now this one comes through the program, Basic Language Skills, so it has to be purchased, but you can make your own. If you're just teaching different consonant sounds, you can type up and make your own deck. But you can go to, there are a couple places where you could purchase a deck if maybe you're doing a homeschool curriculum and you're really trying to go through these, or you're a reading teacher and you're working with your students in class on teaching these different sounds. So the deck that we use through that program, the 6 syllables are embedded in the deck, but like consonants are not a syllable, so you just have the consonant sounds, but then another part of the deck would be like closed syllables, and so that is a syllable type, and it's that short vowel sound that you're practicing there. And then you may move to like consonant clusters where you're talking about 2 or more adjacent letters that make one sound. So again, not a syllable type, but then you do have the other syllable types in there. So the 6 syllables are embedded, and then different patterns or concepts are embedded in the deck that you're practicing. So whether you purchase it through a program or make your own, that gives you a little idea of how to use those. And what the program calls for, just moving on, when we practice these, is you're saying the letter name, the keyword, and then the sound. And really it's the students that are doing that. So you might go over what that concept means, like what a consonant is, and then the students are telling you X, box, X. Okay, so they're telling you the letter, the keyword. That keyword's important because it helps them with the sound, and then the sound. So that is a good example on how to use a concept deck, or what we call initial reading deck. You can work in different decks with your lesson to help with fluency. So on the green cardstock, I use regularly spelled words. So if we're learning OR that says or, then I may have that word would go in the deck. For irregular words that, there's something in that word that's not following the patterns and rules we've been learning, or it's the least frequent way to spell that sound, those words go in here. And so we'll practice through those. And then I've worked in phrases, so not complete sentences, but just phrases from sentences, and that's another way to build some fluency. So we're just going to kind of demonstrate. Okay, so here's the regular word deck.
Factory, kingly, buzzes, chickens, 50, hungry, boxes, benches.
Okay, so just reading through the words. Okay, here are some irregular words.
Troubled, changed, learned, dangerous, buy, learn.
And I usually shuffle those up, so it's different each time. And you've already talked about these, you've already learned why it's irregular, and then after that you're just practicing those again for fluency. And then we'll move to some phrases.
Who went, her cat, where can they, not now, for me, I see her, will run, here it is.
And sometimes we'll see, can we make a sentence? So they think that's kind of fun to hear if the sentence makes sense, or to make some silly sentences with the phrases. So just some simple things you can do. You can make your own. You can type them up. You can write it in marker. Choose your own colors. But just working that in each day after you're teaching a concept. Then add some words that follow that concept in your deck. And then throw in some that are spelled a different way irregularly in the pink deck. So it's that simple. So thanks again for joining today's lesson. Please like and subscribe for if you like this content, for more effective reading instruction practices, tools, and tips. In the description, there are some links to some other resources. My website, amyteague.com, out of the Toolbox Teachers Pay Teachers Store. I have some resources there. Facebook have a page, The Reading Therapist. But I am also going to add on YouTube from the Nyehouse Education Center. They have a whole series with quick tips for families or teachers. And you may find those very useful, just little short tidbits that look very helpful. So I'll add that in the description as well. And look for more content. My 7 Steps to Handwriting is coming soon, where I teach a really simple way to teach students proper handwriting, letter by letter, starting, with approach stroke families, using multisensory methods, so that they get a really strong foundation from the beginning on how to form their letters, how to hold the pencil, to get them started on the right track. We know that the goal with the writing, we want them to be able to communicate their thoughts fluently, in writing on paper without having to really worry about forming the letters. So it's really important to form those letters appropriately. So that's coming soon. So I will see you next time here on The Reading Therapist.